On the final night of 2014, as New Year's bells were about to ring, the streets of Adelaide echoed with laughter and celebration. But behind a locked door on the 12th floor of the Hotel Grand Chancellor, a nightmare was quietly unfolding. A 25-year-old woman from China stepped into that room and never came out alive. The cold hotel floor became her final resting place. This was no accident. It was a brutal murder, carefully hidden beneath the holiday glow. That New Year's Eve, joy was drowned in blood. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you want to see more crime stories, please like and subscribe. Let's dive in. On December 31st, 2014, a young Chinese woman checked into the 4-star Hotel Grand Chancellor in downtown Adelaide, Australia. Just a few days earlier, she had flown in from Sydney, over 1,100 kilometers away, for a short work trip. That night, the very last night of the year, she was seen wearing a dress, moving quietly through the hotel lobby. Not long after, she returned from outside and stepped into the elevator to the 12th floor, never to be seen alive again. A little after 8 a.m. on New Year's Day 2015, a guest on the 11th floor reported water dripping from the ceiling. The hotel manager hurried upstairs to the room above, knocking again and again, but no one answered. He finally unlocked the door with a key card. Inside, the shower was still running and the bathtub overflowing, water spreading across the floor. He shut off the tap and stepped further inside, only to find a young woman lying face down on the cold, wet floor. She was motionless. No sign of life. Shocked, the manager grabbed the phone and called the police immediately. Officers arrived within minutes, soon joined by major crimes detectives. Inside the room, they discovered the victim's throat had been slashed, and her head showed multiple blunt force injuries. Meanwhile, at the front desk, 2 Chinese men came forward saying they knew the victim, but when questioned, their answers were evasive and inconsistent. It didn't take long, however, for investigators to uncover the woman's identity. Her name was Fang Ting, known to clients by her work name, Honey. 25 years old, an escort. 2 days earlier, she had flown from Sydney to Adelaide and checked into the Hotel Grand Chancellor on Hindley Street. The trip was arranged by a local escort agency, which handled her airport pickup and booked the hotel. Fang planned to work for 3 days and returned to Sydney on January 1st, 2015. After paying the agency's cut, she expected to take home a solid income. She had done this many times before without incident. In the 18 months she'd worked with that agency, she had already made 8 trips to Adelaide. Women in this line of work rarely operate in their home cities, fearing they might run into former clients in daily life. Most of Fang's clients were Chinese men, some married or in relationships, many businessmen, customers who could afford such services. At 7 a.m. on January 1st, a man named Xin pulled up outside the hotel. He was the minder and driver for Fang's agency Sweet Baby, responsible for taking bookings via social apps, arranging escorts to travel from other states, and handling pickups, meals, and makeup, so the women could stay in the hotel and focus on work. After parking, Xin called Fang, but she didn't answer. He went up to the 12th floor and unlocked the room with a key card. The moment he stepped in, he heard water running in the bathroom. Assuming Fang was showering, or still with a client, he quietly stepped back out and returned to the lobby to wait. A few minutes later, he called again. No answer. Xin then used the lobby phone to dial the room's landline. Still no response. He began to worry. Not that Fang was in danger, but that she might have left without handing over the agency's cut, which was his main job to collect. At 7:55 a.m., Xin went back to the room. It was pitch dark, with only a thin strip of sunlight leaking through the curtains. The water was still running. This time he looked around and noticed what appeared to be a figure lying on the floor in the corner. As he approached, he saw it look like Fang, her face covered by a towel, a pool of blood spreading beneath her. Xin's heart raced. He mustered the courage to lift the towel, and met Fang's vacant, lifeless eyes. Terrified, he bolted from the room, ran out of the hotel, and called the agency owner Chung to report what he'd found. Moments later, Chung arrived and met Shin in the lobby. The two quietly debated what to do next. At that very moment, the hotel manager, responding to the leak complaint, was already headed upstairs toward Fang's room. By 8:35 a.m., the manager had called the police. Seeing the sudden commotion at the front desk, Chung and Shin guessed the body had been discovered and stepped forward to explain who they were. Inside, forensic investigators found an untouched crime scene. Fang, weighing only 48 kilograms, about 106 pounds, lay lifeless on the floor. She wore black leggings, a pink long-sleeve sweater, and an undershirt, loosely wrapped in blood-stained sheets. Her throat had been slashed, a wound over 10 centimeters long, with heavy pools of blood nearby. There were also bloodstains on a chair in the corner and on the mattress, which appeared slightly displaced, signs of a violent struggle. The autopsy revealed at least 9 blunt force injuries to Fang's head and face, multiple cuts on her body, and the fatal throat slash. The medical examiner also found 2 crescent-shaped wounds on her scalp, matching the heel of a stiletto. Detectives soon located part of the murder weapon in the bathroom sink, a razor blade wrapped in baby wipes, the cloth soaked in blood. In the bathtub were bed sheets, and wrapped inside them was Fang's iPhone. The faucet had run all night, flooding the room and seeping into the floor below. For several days, detectives meticulously processed the scene and collected evidence. By cross-referencing door lock logs with hotel CCTV, they identified every client Fang had seen in the previous 3 days. Remarkably, Fang's iPhone still worked despite being soaked. Inside were thousands of text messages, a trove of clues to her final hours. Interviews with Chung and Shin revealed that Chung and his wife ran the agency, and Chung's 2 phones contained all client contacts, including the last one to see Fang. Records showed that since December 29th, Fang had seen 16 clients, 1 white, the rest Chinese. For every booking, she reported the duration and payment to the agency. In just 3 days, she had earned about 8,000 Australian dollars, but police found only 4,000 Australian dollars in the room. Before officers arrived, only Shin had entered, and he insisted he hadn't touched the cash. Detectives concluded the killer likely came for money. CCTV showed Fang's final client was Piao Chungwang, a 27-year-old ethnic Korean from China. He had booked a 10 p.m. appointment on December 31st via WeChat through Shin. Piao arrived a few minutes early, but, as was standard, didn't know the room number and had to call Shin to get it. Fang had just finished with her 16th client and wasn't quite ready at the exact time. A few minutes later, she was ready, and Shin passed Piao the room number. Shortly after 10 p.m., Fang let him in. At 10:40 p.m., Fang texted Shin saying Piao wanted to extend another hour and needed approval. Shin agreed, but minutes later, Fang messaged again. Piao now wanted an overnight booking and was willing to pay more, 2,100 Australian dollars, well above the usual 1,500 Australian dollars overnight rate. By contrast, 2 hours normally cost 600 Australian dollars. In her text to Shin, Fang hinted that Piao had erectile dysfunction. Later investigation confirmed no evidence of sexual activity. For Fang, the overnight deal seemed like easy money. More pay, fewer clients that night. Shin approved and canceled 2 later bookings. All evening, Fang kept texting friends and Shin. Shin was at a New Year's Eve party in a nearby suburb. In one message, he reminded Fang he'd pick her up the next morning for her flight to Sydney. He wished her a Happy New Year, and at 12:06 a.m., Fang replied with the same. She also messaged her male roommate in Sydney, a young Chinese international student. They'd known each other 6 months and become roommates a month earlier. They got along well. Fang often looked after him, and he treated her like an older sister. He never knew her real line of work, believing she worked in beauty therapy. Fang told him she was traveling to Melbourne, and he'd even driven her to the airport, planning to pick her up again on January 1st, 2015. At 12:14 a.m., Fang sent her last text, "Happy New Year," asking where he was. He replied he was at home, too lazy to go out. Fang never replied. The next day, he waited at the airport over 2 hours with no word, until he saw the news of her death online. After 12:14 a.m., Fang's phone went silent. CCTV captured Piao leaving hurriedly at 12:34 a.m., though the overnight booking could have lasted until 6 a.m. He didn't drive off immediately. Cameras caught him running aimlessly on the street before returning to his car, looking visibly agitated. Door lock records confirmed that after 9 p.m. on December 31st, no one else entered the room until Shin arrived next morning. That made Piao the prime suspect. Using the phone number provided by Chung, police checked their records. Piao was already in the system from reporting lost business documents months earlier. Cross-checking with hotel's CCTV confirmed he was the same man. A little after 11 p.m. on January 1st, officers arrived at Piao's home in Adelaide's western suburbs. He lived with his wife and 8-month-old son. When police arrived, the family was already in bed, and, possibly at Piao's suggestion, his wife never entered the room where detectives questioned him. Piao appeared remarkably calm. He admitted going to the hotel and meeting Fang, but insisted he wasn't her last client, claiming she told him 2 more clients were coming after him. He said he left shortly after midnight and knew nothing of what happened later. For the next 2.5 hours, as detectives searched the house and asked about his movements, Piao stayed composed and confidently assured them he'd cooperate fully. In the home, detectives couldn't find the jeans or shoes he'd worn on CCTV that night, and the service booking chats on his phone had been wiped clean. They did, however, find 1,250 Australian dollars cash in his wallet. After the interview, police seized his iPhone, several clothes, the cash, and collected a buccal swab DNA sample. Although suspicious, there was no direct evidence yet linking him to the killing, so police did not arrest him that night. The next day, investigators searched Piao's home again. By then, the medical examiner had confirmed the 2 crescent-shaped wounds on Fang's scalp. Detectives scoured the house for anything that could have caused them, even seizing the hotel room's iron for testing. But it didn't match. Then, on January 9th, came a breakthrough. Police discovered a fingerprint on Fang's stiletto heel. Based on the print's placement, detectives believed the killer had gripped the shoe by its sole and used the heel as a weapon. Forensics confirmed the crescent wounds matched perfectly. They ran the print through the national database, but found no match. Detectives then asked Piao to come in to assist the investigation, and he agreed. At 9:40 a.m. on January 10th, he arrived and had his fingerprints taken. A recorded interview began at 10:15 a.m. At 11:42 a.m., the interview was abruptly paused. The lab had returned the results. The print on the stiletto matched Piao's right thumb exactly. Even more damning, the orientation of the print suggested he had held the shoe in a striking position. Confronted with the evidence, Piao remained calm and claimed he had only removed Fang's shoes, so it was natural for his print to be there. But detectives were unconvinced. The angle of the print didn't match how someone would normally remove a left shoe. It indicated an awkward combat-style grip. At 12:04 p.m., police arrested Piao for murder and read him his rights. From that moment, his cooperative facade collapsed. He refused to answer further questions and insisted he hadn't killed anyone. By 6 p.m., he was booked into custody. Even so, at that point the evidence still wasn't enough for a sure conviction. Detectives kept digging. They learned that Piao, 27, had moved to Australia in 2010, marrying a local woman, while still on a bridging visa, without permanent residency. He ran a small cleaning company, employing a secretary and several Chinese international students as cleaners. On the surface, the business looked fine, But Piao was a compulsive gambler, often deep in debt. He usually had no cash and was constantly borrowing. Perhaps desperate, the day before meeting Fang, he had pawned a white Volkswagen Caddy for 8,000 Australian dollars. Detectives quickly found the vehicle. In the driver's door recess, they discovered a pressed seal bag with 18 razor blades, the same type as the one found at the crime scene, along with a receipt dated December 5th from a local cleaning supply store. Before going to the hotel, Piao had already lost the entire 8,000 Australian dollars at the casino. Yet that night, he told Fang he'd pay her 2,100 Australian dollars for an overnight, 600 Australian dollars above the going rate. That raised eyebrows. And he had brought razor blades into the hotel. Detectives believed Piao was desperate and saw Fang, a high-earning escort, as a target. He likely knew what women in her line of work earned. Despite having a wife and infant son, he had visited escorts at least 4 times before, including just a week earlier at the same hotel. About 40 minutes before meeting Fang, Piao received a threatening text demanding he repay 3,000 Australian dollars by the next day. All his bank accounts were already overdrawn. That night, half of Fang's earnings vanished. The next day, police found 1,250 Australian dollars cash on Piao and confirmed he deposited 1,000 Australian dollars at an ATM. Detectives also learned Fang had recently bought a new iPhone, which went missing after the murder. A check of Piao's phone history revealed searches on how to unlock an iPhone and what to do if you forget a passcode. Investigators theorized that Piao may have told Fang he needed to go to an ATM to withdraw cash for the overnight fee. Fang slipped on her sweater, ready to accompany him. Perhaps as she bent to put on her shoes, he grabbed a stiletto heel and struck her. Then as she staggered, slashed her throat with a razor blade. Another possibility, he tried to steal her cash while she was in the bathroom or distracted. She caught him, and a confrontation turned violent. Afterward, Piao wrapped the bloody blade in used baby wipes from the bathroom trash and left it in the sink, likely because the wipes carried DNA from previous clients, which he hoped would obscure the link between him and the murder. On January 12, 2015, Fang's parents and brother flew from China to Australia. They had never known she was working as an escort. Fang had left home at 17 to study in Australia, majoring in physical therapy at the University of Sydney. Her father drove a taxi. Her mother worked in a factory. While she studied, they sent her a monthly allowance. To ease their burden, Fang worked part-time at supermarkets, restaurants, and beauty salons. After graduation, she chose to stay in Sydney, at first working as a beautician, but later drawn into sex work to earn more. Even her friends never knew. Her family was devastated. Her mother collapsed in tears. The local Chinese community organized a fundraiser to help cover her cremation and the family's travel costs between Adelaide and Sydney. Before his Supreme Court trial, Piao called the lead detective from jail several times, complaining about the food, blaming the police for ruining his life, and lamenting that he had missed his son's first birthday because of them. In court, Fang's parents stayed in Sydney, unable to face the proceedings, while her brothers sat through every hearing. Piao pleaded not guilty, claiming there was no direct evidence linking him to the murder, and arguing police shouldn't rely on Fang's phone messages. In the courtroom, he stood alone. Even his wife never appeared to support him. On August 17, 2016, the Supreme Court of South Australia found Piao Chunwang guilty of murder, sentencing him to life in prison with a non-parole period of 25 years. When the verdict was read, Fang's family wept with relief. Piao will spend life behind bars, yet he has never admitted guilt or shown remorse. Fang's parents lost their daughter forever, a wound that will never heal. This New Year's Eve murder drenched a city's celebration in blood, a chilling reminder that behind an ordinary smile, danger can still lurk unseen. The case also shone a light on Australia's uneven sex work laws. There is no national law. Regulations vary by state. New South Wales, where Sydney is, fully legalized and regulates sex work. Victoria and Queensland use a licensing model. But in South Australia, where this murder happened, most sex work was still illegal at the time. Many workers had to operate underground, without real protection, leaving them more vulnerable to violence. What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to hear more true crime stories, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.